Let's discuss color inside of Canva, and specifically on three different levels. First, we'll talk about how to apply colors within the system. So simply enough, how can we choose a set of brand colors for ourselves to easily apply? How do we apply them to elements and text and just the basics? After that, we'll talk a little bit about color theory, where some colors are warm, some are cool, some work with one another. Talk a little bit about that so we can have an understanding about how we might be able to choose colors for our design based on what we want to achieve. And then, now that we know how that works, where can we find amazing palettes to use in our own designs? So we'll cover some really great sites for that. But simply enough, colors within Canva, everything happens with the action bar like so many other places. So with text, if you select a piece of text, you're going to find up here in the action bar, you'll see the A with a little bit of a color underneath, and from there exists all the colors. Now this is a good place to jump off because you'll notice right here we have my brand colors. Although there is the crown here, I've found this to be a totally free feature, which is great. If you go to your dashboard and on the left side you go down to brand kit. Generally most of them are sanctioned off for pro users only. However, with brand colors they do let you have up to 3. So if you set these colors, if these are your colors, you have a kind of a soft teal, an orange, and a kind of a very soft lilac, you can add 3 colors that'll be available across all your designs. Super useful if you're using Canva for a company where you can say, these are my colors, every Instagram post, every presentation, use these colors. So like I said, most of Brand Kit is hidden behind the paywall. If you have Pro, it's a fantastic tool, but if you don't, you can at very least have brand colors. Now when that shows up, so for instance with this text, select the text, I go up to the action bar, I hit the colored A there, and on the right side you can see my brand colors. So those 3 that we had seen previously. To enter a new color, you can do it in 2 different ways. Now we're going to cover these various tools here in a second, so I'm kind of just jumping ahead, but I just want to grab a random color from the site. Okay, so we got this sort of, let's go with this kind of mauve in the middle. So that's a number, that's a hex code, a 6-digit hex code that we can use. Again, we'll come back to this site to explore that in full. So there's 2 ways we can enter that in. So we found a color somewhere on the web we want to use. We choose what we want to color. In the case of text, we go to the action bar, we see the text color A, and then you can go to this little square saying new color, click, and you can see at the bottom there's a similar code. So I can just paste that there, and the color's locked in. What's really great is as soon as you add it in, it's going to be within document colors for the entire rest of this document's life. So you can see in this particular case I've added a lot of colors to explain some things, but if you restricted yourself to 4 or 5, everything will remain inside of document colors, making it very useful for you. So the other way, that was to add the new color. I selected what I wanted to color, brought up the left box here, and I hit this box, new color, entered the text there. You can also, as a shortcut instead, up here in the search bar, just enter that same set of numbers and it's going to come up. So immediately right there, you can hit it and you're done. More interesting too is that in addition, like Canva here will suggest some color palettes. So let's say that this color, so 767B, the mauve, is your brand color. Canva, when you hit it into the search, will give you some palette suggestions of other colors that work with your color. So even within the system itself, you can get some nice recommendations. But anyway, so we go to the search, we hit that code, there it is, hit the button, we now have our color. So we're off to a great start. Now this applies for all the elements within Canva. So our basic square element, to change that color, it's the exact same thing. We'll go up to the top, and over on the right side here, or left side, sorry, you'll see color, and there's our familiar interface. And here's that mauve we just entered. Even for more intricate elements, so if you do, for instance, like this intricate kind of whale, despite it looking like a illustration, it's very much a vector that we can choose a color for. So same thing on the top, over the left side, bring up the color wheel or the color box and choose your color. Same thing here, so we have kind of a intricate, more interesting graphic. Lots of stuff going on there, but you'll see each color represented in the top right that we can choose. So we'll choose that one, and again, we can keep really hammering home our singular color palette. But you can change that to anything you want. So if you see an element, but it doesn't quite match your color theory, bring it in, or color palette, bring it in and see if you can change it. You can't change everything necessarily. It's not fully guaranteed that you'll be able to change every color with an element, but it's absolutely worth trying if you see it. Now even better is, let's say you're off into the web, or you're on a great site like flaticon.com, the site where you can search and find icons. If you find something you'd want to use but maybe recolor, see if you can download it in the SVG format. That means scalable vector format. It's a particular format that lets you scale it as big as you want, but also alter colors and choose it, because it's all done within code. So if you go to upload and you upload that particular photo, what you'll find is you can, in the top left, despite it coming from this website, download it as an SVG file. You can edit the colors. So in this case, again, if we want to kind of stick with our somewhat theme there. Yep, so you can play around with that. Now it's going to be a little hit or miss. This image I got from the exact same site. It's an SVG, and I was not able to edit the colors. So your mileage is going to vary a little bit, but definitely worth a try and a look. Lastly, from a color perspective, if you have a photo, you can also play with colors a bit. And if you wanted to reduce the saturation, or if you wanted to make it warmer or cooler to sit better with your photos. So let me move our happy whale here, and let's say we wanted these to really sit together, but we don't like how prominent the kind of oranges are within this photo. What you can do is within the, well, two ways really. If you go with filter, you can of course, much like Instagram or any other photo program or social network, Twitter, Facebook, apply a filter to it. So of course I'll kind of give you a sense as far as, you can change the general color tone of it. If you want to be more specific, if you select the photo, come up to adjust, you'll have all these tools. And most interesting for us will be tint. So we can kind of change the general background color at. So we get it kind of into those blues and purples, and then saturation. So how much more how intense are the colors, and how much more towards black and white is it as opposed to full color. So you can see super intense colors, really faded and muted. And you can see how close we can make that to our base color there, while still maintaining some of the colorization. Lastly, actually two more items I'd like to cover. So one will be the background itself. So if you want to color this background space, same type of process, you're just going to click it, and then the top left, you're going to get that same type of color item. So we'll click up into that, and now choose any of the colors, brand colors or anything, or enter it in as well. Now, quick note, if you did that by accident or you want to kind of clear it, of course you could just put it to white, but if you're more of a purist, you could always just hit delete after you've chosen a color. So in this case, green, and delete. With it selected, it'll get rid of it. Last one I did want to show was a gradient. So if you search in gradients, you'll find all these different items. You get squares, you get circles, kind of like these blobs, which are sort of interesting, fun design shapes. When you click on that, you'll notice, much like the SVGs, which had the colors for the different sections, it's now for the gradient. So at the bottom here, we have this richer pink. Let's again put it kind of to our brand color, and the top, go back to that other type of blue. So if you find a gradient, you're going to be able to change both colors and decide what exactly that would look like. So that's the general using colors within Canva for the particular elements you can select within it. But how do colors work, and how do we know which to select? And even better, how to control how the other people feel when seeing our colors. And that's where it gets interesting, and that's what we can get into a bit of color theory. Now, not too much. The color theory itself could be studied for years and years, but we'll give a general outline. And some of this will be familiar. I'm sure you've heard that colors carry an emotion. And you might have seen there's tons of graphics out there that show the various brands and how red is for passion and love, and fiery blue is calm, and purple is regal, green is natural. So I'm sure it's familiar to you, but let's give it a really quick rundown because it's very useful. If you want to be fun and vibrant and happy and warm, you're looking at oranges and yellows. If it's calm and respected and trustworthy, you're looking at blues. So it's useful to be thinking about that when you're choosing colors for a client or for yourself. So just really quickly, yellow, happy, youthful, friendship, hope. It's a very happy, happy color. Orange, energetic, playful, and active. I think that's one of the better ones to think about. Active and fun, enthusiastic. Great color. Red, of course, passion, excitement, fire, and energy. You'll see that a lot, of course. Purple. Purple's a bit more interesting where it's regal and elegance. A little bit of mystery and luxury as well. So a lot of more interesting ones. You can imagine the purple velvet bag wrapped around a piece of jewelry. That's why they go with the purple color, because that's the emotions it elicits. Blue, of course, trust, loyalty, strength, dependability, and confidence. That's why you'll see a lot of banks use this and a lot of social networks, because they're trying to relay the fact that they're to be trusted. Heck, even Canva's got the nice purples to blues. Greens, we're thinking nature, we're thinking trees and leaves, harmony, peace, wealth, and health. Browns, so we often don't think too much of browns when we get into colors. It's very much a neutral, but at the same time, it follows along natural, dependable, dirty. So if you're trying to be down, dirty, reliable, and homey, and comfortable. Think UPS and their famous use of the color. Black, of course, elegance, strength, power, formality, and sophistication. Sophistication is a really great word for that. You can think about any of the ads for perfumes where it's all black and white. Definitely gets that across. Gray, hardly considered a color at all, but just the same, it's balanced, formal, respectful, and calm. Kind of a non-color in some ways, but there's the balanced, formal, and calm aspects can be really used. White, innocence, lights, purity, perfection, cleanliness. So real easy to think about. So just really fast overview, but as you're putting together your brand, as you're putting together a banner for a website, if you think about what you want the person to feel when they come to it, are you trying to have them feel healthy and natural and invigorated? Is this fun and playful? Is this refined and powerful? So you can use that, put out those adjectives and then think through the colors of what you want to do for your design. And you'll see that they kind of break up into these big groups. So there's warm colors, and that's literally think of the temperature. Warmth, comfortable, inviting. Cool, where it's, kind of sophisticated, not the right word, like cool as in like calm, regal, calming is like probably about the best way to put about it. And then neutral, not really sparking any of those emotions. So just gray, like the gray, the simple gray room, simple white room, just neutral, nothing to it. So, as you can see, that when it comes time to use these colors, what are you conveying? And are we a solid, reliable, technological partner? You can put your faith in us. Blues and grays, calming, dependable. Or is this a feel-good, homey, you're going to love and cherish this product? Warmth, oranges, yellows. So it can be really useful to start with that when you're choosing your colors. So we know how to apply colors inside of Canva very simply. We know the effect that colors can have. Where do we find colors? So what's great is there's so many great sites for inspiration to find them, as well as tools which we'll get into as well. But if you're just starting out and you want to find a great palette, Pinterest is a phenomenal resource. So if you search color palette, you will find row upon row of stunning examples of colors that designers have put together based on color theory. So these colors work together, but ones you can absolutely take and incorporate into your own work. So as you click in, this amazing vibrant pink set against these kind of more neutral and calmer tones based on that succulent. Looks fantastic. We got this fun, flirty pink and teal, very summery, very interesting. We have this type of beach feel where we're going with the beautiful teals and blues of the oceans mixed against the warm pinkish sands. So lots of options, so lots of inspiration. You can go through all of these and get a sense of it. Find your next color palette. Color Hunt. So colorhunt.co is, again, it's a designer-run site, and these are some of the more popular color palettes that designers have submitted and other designers have upvoted. So these are all based on color theory. So these colors are known to work together, but voted upon on designers, and you can take a look and see like which one do I like, which one might work for my brand or this particular design I'm trying to get across. What is a great color? So colorhunt.co, great place for inspiration. Colorhunt.co. Now, what if you have a color? So you at some point had your logo designed and you have this blue for our example. I want to work with this blue, but I need to know what other colors work well with it. Because remember, not every color is going to work with it necessarily. So what colors can I be ensured will absolutely work with this blue? So first, a trick. Do that color and then only neutrals. That's a guaranteed way to work, because neutrals, not really being a color themselves, will not conflict with it and they'll work out really well. It lets your color shine through. And you remember neutrals being the gray, blacks, and whites. Brown you'll have some tricky with, but mostly gray, blacks, and whites. In addition, you can play with the saturation and value. So with those, you can imagine if you had your blue color and you're just adding black or white to that color. So you're going to make it, you're going to lighten it or you're going to darken it. And you can also imagine intensity. So if you're blue, and then you just make it like twice as intense, turn up the contrast, it's much more bright, as opposed to bringing it way down where it's almost starting to get into a gray. So by playing with the intensity of it and playing with the black and white within it, you can create a whole palette. And as you can see here, to do that, let's say, so this is our blue. So we went up here, we pasted that blue. That is our blue. I'll get rid of this guy for now. So if we copy and paste that one, now we want to work within the same saturation value. We want to stay within this particular blue. We'll select it. We'll choose the color. We'll go new color. Now here we can see we already have it selected. So what you can do is kind of stay within this wheelhouse and you're going to be fine. So you can make it darker to give you a kind of darker color to play with. You could make it, so again, we'll tell you we should start with the original blue. So let's find it. There we are. Okay. So start with that original blue, and again we'll click into new color. It brings up this. You can imagine kind of graying it out, reducing the complexity and the intensity. Right? So that's an interesting one. Let's copy and paste it. Get into new color. Kind of bringing it up, making it a little bit more light. Right? So if you stay within that wheelhouse, you can add as many of those colors as possible, because it's based on this one. They're going to work together. Now, how do I find other colors? So I want this blue, but I want to find like a purple or an orange or something else that works with it. This part, you don't need to memorize this. It's just good to know. So as we're using all the other sites, you just have a kind of a background information. It's certainly interesting. All of color theory, it might seem like it's a designer's whim, like a designer's intuition for how it works, but it's actually math. The color theory works on this wheel, and all of the colors that work with one another are based on this wheel and their position to one another. So specifically what I mean is, if I grab a circle to be able to show you, let's make this darker. So this is the color wheel. If our blue was located somewhere within here, the complementary color for that would exist on the other side, directly opposite of it. So wherever your color falls within the color wheel, its complementary color is just on the other side. So the complementary to blue is orange. The complementary to yellow is purple. Now that's a very simplistic one, just one color. What if you wanted more? Well, it gets into other options which are called triptych, for instance, which are your colors can make up a triangle. And if you think of RGB, red, blue, yellow, this is where it comes from. Red, blue, and yellow, the natural triptych color. right? And the same thing if you kept like moving those three around, always making that triangle on this color wheel. That's how those colors are. That's how colors are done. There's a ton more. You can do a triadic where it's like 1, 2, 3, or triadic might be the wrong word, but when there's three beside one another, that's another way to do it. And on and on. I don't want to go through all of them, but as a general understanding, when a color works with another color, it's because it has a relation to it on this color wheel. So it's a lot more math than it is artistic ability. Now, how could you know to do that? You do not need to go to color school or art school. There's a ton of sites that'll do that for us. Besides using the inspiration sites like we had, Pinterest and Color Hunt, you can go to a site like color.adobe.com/create. So Adobe Color. And here you'll see it restrains everything based on color theory. So here's that triptych we had done, for instance, the triangle. And you can see based on where we drag things, or even better, if you enter in your color, let's get back to that blue really quickly. So if we grab our blue color, there it is. We enter that into the color wheel. These are the colors that work in a triad with it. And it's complementary, so exactly across from it, compound, bunch of stuff you can play with. So shade, so that's where it's like adding the black and the dark, black and the white to it. Another option here is ColorMind. So colormind.io. And quite simply, if you're just trying to find a color, this could be a great inspiration site too, where you can, hitting the generate button, will come up with a color palette that mathematically works together. These colors look great together. Generate, 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 and eventually maybe come across something you like. Even better is if you like this green, not so sure about the rest, you can lock it in, and now the site's going to generate the other ones. So these colors work with this green. And in fact, if you end up liking, you know what, I really like this purple too, now it's going to generate the other ones based on those two. So you can see how you could slowly start to build your own color palette. But in our example, if you click the little settings dial there, and you paste in our color, it gets in our blue, and we can lock it in. So if you have a brand color based on a logo or something, even 1 or 2, you can come to a site like this, lock it in, and then generate. Like let's say the 2 colors you had were this blue and this kind of coral, and you want to see what else worked. Generate, generate. You can find additional colors that are within your color palette. Last one of my favorite ones, coolors.co, coolors.co. And same thing, you saw me at the very beginning of this video doing this. Every time you press the space bar when you get to the generate, so if you arrive at the site, you'll arrive here. Just go start the generator, it's free. Once it loads up, here's some random colors. Every time you press space bar, it's going to give you a brand new set of colors that all perfectly work together. Now if you paste the color in, again, you can lock it in, and it's going to do the same thing for us. So let's find one to use. This one's kind of interesting. We're going to need that in a bit. It's Adobe Colors, ColorMind, and Coolors. So let's do that. Let's apply that color theory we just found and apply it to this site here. So we had generated it from this. This was kind of our base. I think it's going to end up being a lot bolder because it's we're going with that deeper blue. So I think what we'll try to do is we'll try to work in this blue and this purple and then work with some shades of that. So we'll have this is the baseline. Go into colors. There's that blue. Now in this case, I get the feeling it's been made slightly transparent, but that's okay because I would just bring in some of the background color, which is not bad. I'll actually tell you what, that might pollute it a bit because it will then take on some of that beige in the back, which we're unsure of. What I wouldn't mind actually is if it's supposed to, being transparent is fine. The problem with this transparent is that it had this beige, so our blues were going to pick up some brown, which might mean it doesn't work with the other ones. However, if we want to by making it transparent, it's kind of a sneaky way to add in white, which we had mentioned as far as a way to extend your color capability. And I think the sneaky thing that this particular template might have done is use the same color and then just change the opacity so that it took on more of the background and then kind of slightly change the shade. So that makes it kind of interesting. So what we could do as well, though, for instance, we could try. So let's take this. That looks pretty. I like that. So just sharp blue, whites. This is just a shade of this because it's made transparent to pick up some of the white. It looks kind of nice. That's great. But let's duplicate that and try this again. What happens if we take that purple we'd gotten that we were told works and make that the background color? So definitely a different feel. So the blue here picks up some of that purple, but because it's complementary, that'll be okay. And we can maybe change this to white. So I select this, I go to the font, go over here to make sure there's enough contrast. Go to those. We want to make sure that stands out against the back enough and make that white. So definitely a different feel. We can see how those sort of work together. I wonder if it would be too bold. Now something this far to left field, you wonder where you can put it without it hurting anything. Specifically if we added it to the background. I do not think that's going to work for us. Well, maybe for some brands. Not really what we're going for. Now you do wonder if you added one punch of color in the top right, either in the text itself, which isn't really doing it that well for us. I do wonder, for instance, if we did a square. Let's bring this to front. Not going to let us. That's okay. So drag this over top, then select it, bring forward. You know what? This is going to work better on the other one, I think, because there's enough colors here that are going to be kind of combating, as opposed to this one, which is fairly monotone, and then all of a sudden you take that one bold color that we had just found, and what does that look like? Let's grab that crazy pink. So that is brave. It is noticeable, but notice how it still fits. It still sits within it because it's within the color palette and it looks sharp. So a little way to sneak in some color there. I think this bar would be a little bit too much. Nah, not bad, but so a way you can see how like even something that seems really out there can be used to nice effect as a highlight for it. Let's do that one more time, and here's obviously a great example of that where there's just one punch of color. But let's see what happens when we play with the various shapes here. So it seems to be a color effect over top of it. Let's try again with this same color palette. Let's lean on let's go a bit more with the purples. So we take this kind of mauve that we had found, and maybe using that color terminology incorrectly, but we're going to roll with it. So that's a really kind of soft purple that's going to sit in the background. We have a line here. We could leave that white, which is really nice and high contrast. I do wonder if we take kind of like this lighter purple and see if that would still work, and then kind of fight off of this purple here. Let's try that. What's great with this type of thing, because we know that all the colors work together, we're free to play and try and see which ones could work with one another. Now one thing to do here, so we got this really deep purple here. Two ways I might suggest doing this. So we could change, this is just a flat gray. What if we went with a dark purple? That's subtle, but it's really nice that we have all of these purples kind of playing off one another. Another way to do that is if you do want it to be blue, grab your blue, come in here and make it that. But then much like we showed, I'll tell you what, the fast way, sorry, is probably new color. Enter your blue. And it's actually kind of interesting to have it lighter, but let's keep it the dark. Add black to it. Imagine adding black paint into it. And that's another way to go too. So if you really wanted to use one of these other colors, just darken it down. Imagine squeezing in black text, much like we did here, except we added white so we can use the same shade but multiple times. I'll tell you what though, I really did like how this deep purple worked across everything else. So we'll click on that, paste that in. Excellent. And the last piece would be, if only we had a super bright, super crazy color to use as a highlight. And you know what? We just do. So there we have it. So as you can see, color can seem a bit mystifying, and it's curious as to how you choose the right colors. How do you know what colors work with one another? But firstly, within Canva, it's super simple to be playing around with colors as far as select the item, action bar, bring up the color tool, and then either choose from one already in the document, which makes it super fast and easy, or your brand colors, which you set from the dashboard, which make it really nice to keep everything you do consistent. So applying it within Canva, understanding color theory a little bit as far as themes around color. What am I trying to evoke with emotions? Do I want them to feel energized and excited and happy? Do I want them to feel soothed and calmed because I'm reliable, I'm dependable? What spectrum of color do you want to have them draw emotions from? That's very useful when you're starting these designs. What are you trying to convey to the viewer? Understanding a bit of color theory, and that is all based on the color wheel. It's just mathematics as far as where one color is in relation to another for choosing a complementary color, and then hosting a great amount of tools like coolers, color wheel and color mind, and getting inspiration from amazing sites like Pinterest and Color Hunt. Next thing you know, your designs are going to be absolutely colorful, well color coordinated, and you'll be drawing out the emotions you want. So cheers to your next great color design, and we'll see you in the next lesson.